what was the weirdest decision I ever made? The weirdest decision was like I quit a very, very well paying, happy job to go literally write Stephen Sondheim influenced spoof songs of blockchain. It was the weirdest leap I've made. And I remember leaving in June and we did the first show in July 2017. And I didn't think it was weird. Looking back, I was like, well, this makes perfect sense.
Right.
Everyone leaves an investment banking position to go sing stupid songs. But
Welcome to the Powerhouse. My name is Joshua Gonzalez, but you can call me JG. This show is for the moment before the win, when you're at the crossroads and your judgment actually matters. Each episode, I sit down with a leader here in New York City to unpack one real decision under pressure. What the stakes were, what the trade-offs they faced, what they chose, and the values behind it. Then we publish a short written breakdown in the Powerhouse newsletter on LinkedIn. So the lesson is easy to share, easy to remember, and useful long after the recording. So if you ever had to make a hard call with imperfect information, this is for you. Let's get it started. Our featured leader is an angel investor and creator of Right to Invest. Please welcome Matt Hooper.
thank you. Wow, what an intro.
Mhm.
I wish you existed and this show existed when I had to make decisions before. Now every time I'm facing uncertainty, I'm just going to read the newsletter and listen to other smarter past guests. I'm going to go back and follow their advice for any
Thank
time
you
I'm in a
so
trouble.
much for you've been very kind. Thank you. I know you're a very busy person, so thank you for being here. I'm honored to have you.
I think it's a pleasure and also an honor. It is both of those things. Thank you, JG.
Okay, so let's get it started. My first question would be to start this conversation. Where were you in life, right before making this big decision?
Yeah, so just for anyone who's out there watching or listening, one of the things I like about this show is that you're actually encouraged as a guest to do some preparatory work and think through whatever this big decision in your life was. And I've had I mean, I'm a serial entrepreneur, which means that I've failed more than I've succeeded. Any little bit of money I've made here or there, I've put right back into startups. Now it's other startups before it's been my own. I had sort of an interlude in a corporate setting. I've worked internationally. Like nothing has ever really been linear. So I tried to break down the last 15 years of my career, which is the only career I've had. I graduated college a little over 15 years ago. So I went through it and I thought, well, a pretty big decision that seemed creatively awesome, but practically very difficult would be the kind of thing that I'd want to talk about because that's where a lot of the risk lies is, hey, this seems exciting, but is there any validation? Is there any traction, when you seek a new opportunity? And the most like realistically difficult decision I ever made was when I left working at the Barclays Investment Bank to go build my last media business, which I knew was not going to be venture backed. It was going to be driven by client revenue. So I was leaving not only a stable job, a job that put me sort of right in the heart in many ways of the New York City, not just fintech ecosystem, but innovation ecosystem to go raise money from some of the same offices and business units where my peers had to work. So it was like really ejecting myself from a position where I felt like an insider to being really an outsider. And I wasn't really aware of that. I probably wasn't even aware of that till a couple of years after I did it because I was 29. I think it helps to be I didn't have a family yet. I think it helps to be younger to make those kind of decisions. But I will tell you that the context for that decision was I was comfortable in a job, and that scared me. I didn't want to be comfortable. I thought that comfort would mark the death knell of creativity. So that's the long and winding answer to your question where I was. That's literally where I was. That was my job, and also emotionally where I was, where comfort scared the what out of me. You know
Um,
what?
I was thinking like let's go back to that job that you had then, right?
Yeah.
What was the best parts about it? If you just like looked into it,
The best parts of my job.
yes.
Yeah, it was really like what you made it, even though I was in a large institution. And my team, globally distributed, was very cool. Like I liked the people I worked with in New York and elsewhere. So so my role, if I'm remembering correctly, was probably threefold. It was that I was managing a new co-working space called Rise New York, which was wild. I'd never managed like a physical space before. That was just job,
Right.
although I'd we work in the past, to focus on entrepreneurial endeavors, like getting buy-in from the business to develop new products or ideas, and to support, which meant a combination of advocating for and sort of like making introductions on behalf of startups in the Barclays Accelerator, which was the program that we ran at the time with Techstars. So
Hmm.
every day I had one of those 3 responsibilities, which sort of broke down into probably hundreds of different kinds of responsibilities after that. And then depending on who I was talking to, whether they were a member of the co-working space or they were a participant in the accelerator or they were a Barclays executive, I had a different conversation. And it was really cool. Like I got to really be
Right.
on my toes and think about innovation, not just entrepreneurship, because I was functionally an intrapreneur, right? And
Right.
it also came to teach me that entrepreneurship was real. And that was an exciting opportunity to be able to think that way. Like, sorry, and do that way. Like, a lot I wanna be very clear, a lot of jobs you kinda learn, and then maybe you'll implement them. I was, like, learning stuff at 9 a.m., implementing it at 10 a.m., right? Because I was learning what a company did, and then I was meeting with that company. I was trying to figure out how to sell an office to a fund manager, and then making sure that there were companies that could then meet with the fund manager. My job was to connect a whole ecosystem, and that was and sort of also build one,
Mhm.
and I liked that part of it a lot. I really, really did, and also there was something interesting about being tied to a brand that everybody knew. I mean, in New York, more people were familiar with Barclays from being like the Barclays Center
Right.
than as a bank,
As a
but in
bank.
the UK, Barclays was almost synonymous with bank the way Xerox was synonymous with photocopying. So it had a brand that meant a lot, and
And,
still does,
and
and it's a great place to work.
yeah, and is there a lot of room to grow on that path you were looking at, or it was more like
It's a great question. So yeah, so one of the reasons I got anxious was I realized that I could maybe rise like 2 levels sort of ever in that business unit if there was ever gonna be a maturation of that business unit. It looked like one might have been sooner than not. So then I would have been promoted, and then I would have had like 1 promotion left, and I was 20, again, as I mentioned, I was 29.
right,
As you can probably tell with the sense of humor of like a 12-year-old. And so I was very, aware that that was like the ceiling. Like, that was the ceiling, like, I'd be 32, 33 at the end of my job there,
right,
and a lot of my peers internally, not in the ecosystem, their jobs were not like building a business, it was like moving between financial institutions or
right,
moving between business units within the financial institution or leaving and getting an MBA and then coming back, and I
right,
that really, like, I gotta be honest, like, freaked me out. I was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 I can write the next 36," assuming I was lucky enough to retire at the traditional US age of retirement, I was looking at 36 years of like, what am I gonna do? And a
right,
lot of folks I knew who had risen in institutions like that thought a lot about rank and thought a lot about power they'd accrued, even if they
right.
were benevolent with it. It was just a different way of looking at your career. And I thought, that's not quite for me.
So with that, background at the same time, the situation you were in and described, what were the two real choices that you were really considering in front of you?
I was considering working in innovation in other corporate settings or doing something kind of random and building my own business. I was running a meetup at the time. They combined comedy, music, and startup pitches called Live from Tomorrow. Live
Uh-huh.
from Tomorrow was very well attended by that point. Like I had done 6 or 7 of them, and it was just a very popular event. Like sometimes we sold tickets, sometimes we didn't. We always had the same turnout. And my friend and I had built it as a live event, and we ended up meeting this awesome marketing team on the but this is how long ago this was, the IBM Blockchain marketing team, back when every enterprise was thinking about blockchain. And they wanted to do something unique for startups because, IBM software was not always synonymous with things that startups it was, I'm trying to put that clearly. IBM was not a point of focus for many startups at the time in terms of being like a business they wanted to work with or be onboarded onto, right? We knew that Amazon and Google had built real inroads in the startup ecosystem. What could IBM do? And blockchain felt like a potential fresh start as a new technology, not crypto, but sort of the public ledger aspect of the technology. Years later, I really don't like I never bought a cryptocurrency. I want to be very clear. Like I believed that the technology made it interesting to audit, sure, but I mostly respected genuinely that a group of young, like my age marketers were thinking differently about how to work with startups. So I'm not to say the technology wasn't cool. It was. It just wasn't my thing. And
Right,
so I was very interested in like building a showcase for a corporate, sort of in theory.
right,
And I one came to me and offered. some money to do it in practice. And there were two things. One was I wasn't, I couldn't, as a Barclays employee, actually work at a startup. I mean, that was just like part of the deal. Uh, but also, like, when would I have a chance like that again?
Right.
Right. So, like, I could either accept that money into some other company that I'm not part of, and support my friends from afar, or I could give it my all. And I had wanted to be a filmmaker when I was basically through college. I was very interested in media. I was very interested in the fragmentation of media. I ended up hosting a lot of stuff, but performance wasn't really an area I was interested in. It sort of became something I did. But I was really interested in this idea of making tech, particularly sort of esoteric technology like blockchain, built by corporates no less, entertaining. And there was something, as a friend of mine said to me recently, sort of punk rock about what we were doing, because we were like doing spoofs of musicals in the middle of like off Broadway theaters, like, but also having IBM executives come. I mean, we made, I think, a really good show. And then that show, weirdly, that I did for IBM became my job for 4 years. So I literally did a lot of those shows. Like, I did a ton of
Right.
Live from Mars stuff with IBM. I hosted 4 seasons of their IBM Blockchain podcast. It was so TLDR, if you want to listen to this interview at X, it was a really successful decision. But I really, when you gave me the questionnaire, I had to think, like, what was the weirdest decision I ever made? The weirdest decision was like I quit a very, very well paying, happy job to go literally write Stephen Sondheim influenced spoof songs of blockchain. Like, it was the weirdest leap I made. And I remember leaving in June, and we did the first show in July 2017. And I didn't think it was weird. Like, looking back, I was like, well, this makes perfect sense.
Right.
Everyone leaves an investment banking position to go sing stupid songs. But yeah, I'm happy I made that decision.
Glad. And
Thank
from
you.
different perspectives, which do you think the smarter choice looked, and which is what choice made you feel
Yeah,
more
the
alive?
smarter choice looked like staying. Full stop.
Right.
Yeah.
What did people say about it? Maybe open it up. What were
Yeah,
your
so
core
it depended
quotes?
on who the people were. The people, like my colleagues, sort of thought like, well, I guess that makes sense. He's pretty creative, and we didn't think he could stay long in a corporate, but also sort of like, I wish you well, like, you're not gonna make it. And then, like, good luck, schmuck. And then my friends were like, you've never had a linear path. Who knows, whatever. Stability was not always going to be your friend. Like, I think they understood it. And then my co-creator of that show, and to this day, one of my great friends, thought it was the right decision. And he was probably the most bullish until he
Ooh.
wasn't. But at the time, he was the most like, this makes sense. Like, this is a natural extension of what we're doing, which is
For
much,
people
again,
who know
it doesn't make
you,
sense. I really think because we were so young, we thought that was true.
right? The people who truly knew you can easily piece it out. Like, yeah, makes sense. He could do it definitely.
Yeah, and also, like, I think, just, this is a really weird thing to say, but it's like I'm naturally silly. So I think there was like, so I mean, which is not a professional attribute, but like my worldview is such that I'm always trying to find something funny. It just is. Like, I would rather be funny than anything else.
Good.
And so just in the way I live my life, like, the world is horrible and sad, and the way that we all need to get through it is to find joy and laugh. And so I intentionally, like, didn't do um like team-based improv and all sorts of stuff in my 20s when a lot of my friends were coming out of um doing film stuff in college, because it just wasn't for me. I got really into startups. I got
Right.
really into the collaboration, and the community of startup culture was actually what I was hoping to find in, for lack of a better phrase, show business. I really found a non-competitive atmosphere and a hopeful atmosphere in startups. And I stayed in New York. I didn't go to LA, and that was like probably the best decision I made. And the irony of making a show with my co-creator for startups was that it was like this really creative, fun, entertaining, at the time, sort of quarterly experience
Right.
for a community that I felt genuinely supported by. Genuinely. So we did different topics. We did fintech episodes. We did, GovTech, civic tech episodes. Sorry, we did, like, I remember we did a whole meetup around dating apps during Valentine's Day. We had a live band, and then we did some on the road shows. So I did a live from San Francisco. I hosted events for IBM, specifically in Las Vegas and Frankfurt and New Orleans. And so it became this like traveling circus up until COVID.
Yeah. Wow. It's I would say you lived an entertaining life.
Yeah,
That's like
literally. Yeah, I got to wear like a top hat, dude. It was cool. Anytime you wear a top hat to work in the theater, you're doing well. Unless you're Abe Lincoln, who wore a top hat to work in the theater and didn't work out so well.
yeah. He did not come home.
He did not come home.
Yeah. So for this decision,
That's too
what?
soon. Is that like is that gonna rub people the wrong way? Like 200 years
Okay,
later, that's like
it's
what
good.
happened?
There we go. History, folks.
History. It
I'd
happened.
say it happened. And spoilers alert.
Spoiler alert: Lincoln didn't go home. Yeah.
Okay. About this decision, what made it super hard for you?
The like economic anxiety, right? I was leaving a salaried role. I
Right.
think I mentioned it if I didn't. The
Right.
first job to do the first show was $25,500, and by the time you're done paying expenses, like you're not making that money, right? That's
Yes.
going out to the production and renting the theater and the streaming group.
Yeah.
So I was leaving money to have no money.
Right.
And my now wife, that girlfriend, had just finished business school, and we were thinking like, where are we going to live and what are we going to do? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We had a short-term plan, which was to get an apartment in New York together, where I had been living, and she was living in New Haven at the time, and we did that. And
Right.
beyond that year, I'm not totally sure that I had plans. Really, I was like, well, I'm gonna give it a shot. And then I realized that what I was actually doing was giving myself a year, like on some unconscious level, until the money runs out. And then in that year, I'd never worked so hard. I mean, I just found new ways of netting revenue. So like I forced myself into a box.
Right. Yeah. Let's go back to the moment. The IBM moment that we discussed. What happened when they thought you were kind of like a comedian, not an innovation executive?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So obviously my only experience at that time had been that I worked in tech. And
Right.
and then most recently had worked in tech at a bank. I mean, I was like really not a comic. And I went into this meeting to pitch this web talk show that we ended up making with IBM, and I was sort of a guest of one of the creative executives there. IBM at the time had a business unit called IBM Originals that made content in house, and so the idea, and this was again like nine. This I may as well be like 1,000 years ago. Like this was like get like the pivot to video, whatever that was in the mid 2010s was fairly recent at that time.
Right.
So there was
Early.
no TikTok. So the sense that a big brand could have like a viral series, like the examples we were giving at the time, again, to date it would be things like carpool karaoke or comedians in cars getting coffee or Billy on the Street or shows from about 10 years ago. And we did this show where I drove a desk around Central Park called The Desk. And
Okay.
I still want to bring the desk back at some point. It still exists. For anyone listening who wants to make the desk, just
Right.
ask me. Um, but the desk, we pitched it, and the guy that bought it, like the internal executive who bought the show, the green light was for 2 episodes, and he said, "This all makes sense and sounds like fun. Let's give it a shot." And it was great, and it was a great shoot, and I loved it. But what was interesting, looking back, was that he clearly assumed that I like knew what I was doing, like that, because I'd hosted just the thing he'd seen. So it wasn't like I was unprepared, but he didn't ask, like the whole premise of the show is that I'd be interviewing other entrepreneurs and other innovators, and it was very much set in my world. But there was never a question about why. No one realized that that was because that was the world I was from, right? They were just like, "Oh, this is a funny guy who wants to talk to tech people." They didn't understand that I was a tech person, whatever that.
Right.
So that was both validation, like, "Hey,
Right.
I'm on the right track. This guy's not asking questions," and also just sort of like, "Holy shit! Like I can't turn back now." Right? Because the other fear is, I said a minute ago, I give myself a year. And so
Right.
the other fear is if now I'm in it, if like there's always that it's sort of weird, sick part of you that hopes that, hey, when the year's up, hey, it didn't work out, no harm, no foul, I'll go back to some more stable thing. That's literally never happened since then.
Okay. Okay. Just saying, clarifying everything. That's good. That's good. Um, I mean, you mentioned you pitched the show on your first pitch. How did it make you feel? Like, were you already that confident? Like, I know if it works, my instincts is very strong.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know that it's a weird thing to say. That's where I'm most confident.
Oh wow.
The like I have no confidence in so many areas in life. You know what I mean? Like I can't. Most things I cannot do. Full stop. I was gonna say I can't do this,
Right.
I can't do that, but it's like no, most things I can't do. but sort of knowing that something would be good or funny, I'm pretty good at.
Right.
Within that process, there were things I was insecure about, like, should it be me hosting?
Right.
Who's gonna what's our team gonna look like? Like, who's the best director for the project? Whatever, right? But I knew that especially because the concept was a collaboration between myself and others, like, we'd all been validating whether or not that was funny for a couple weeks. So I felt very confident that it was
I
funny.
see. That's good.
And by the way, confident enough, so, like, if someone said no, I don't know that I would then go fight for it. I mean, I wanna be clear, like, I still, I don't have that level of confidence always, but I didn't feel like it was about me, or if it didn't work, I was a failure, none of that stuff. I felt like, "Well, this idea is pretty good, and someone will like it."
Cool. Okay. Looking back, what did you prove before you fully believed that this could be, a business like now?
Yeah, so, like, what did I prove before I knew I was, like, making shows for big companies and stuff?
Like, did you have any experience that you're like, okay, I know this is gonna work, and how to integrate it into a business?
Yeah, I think the business became clear when we weren't gonna do like, the hardest thing that I still have some regret over was I wanted to do an original we wanted to make original work, and we almost never did. So the
Right.
business became tied up in client work, and that was hard. So, because it was only ever one person full time really at any given
Right.
time. I had different partners, different collaborators, and some of their work was fractional, some wasn't. Some came in for 9 months, some came in for whatever, So, but like over the course of 4.5 years, most of it was me, and I think I would still sort of kick myself because I wish it had been a better business. Instead, it was um, I wish I had done more original work in that business. I'll leave it at that. So when I knew it was a business, was I was living off of the revenue that I was generating, but it wasn't like what I wanted to be building.
I see. I see. Oh, and looking back, what would be a rule that our audience could apply on in something similar to this situation?
Yeah, I think, like, always put yourself out there and take a meeting is really helpful. Like, most of my career has been a combination of luck and opportunity, and so just I think put yourself out there. Like, I know that's in some ways the most cliched advice ever, but it's also like it's real, especially in this world where everything is decided by AI. So, like, I just want I am also a adjunct professor at Queens College, and so I'm spending a lot of time with undergraduates, and they're entering a very different workforce in a very complicated world, a very complicated moment. And I think about this a lot. And I also have two young children who are going to grow up in an entirely different life. We're
Right.
there, entirely different world, I should say. So like their relationship to technology versus mine is going to be sort of like, the generation that had a horse and a generation that had a car. Like, it's going to just be so different. And I think putting yourself out there and being in the room is what stands out and what makes people distinctive, because everybody lives on their screen. People wanna feel something authentic and human. Again, it's becoming a cliche, this whole idea of like, "Well, what differentiates you? What's your moat, taste?" Whatever but, like,
Right.
it's real because you're showing up in person. And all of the experiences I had, even 10 years ago, that were part of that real inflection point to turn me from someone who, like, could have stayed in the corporate to someone who was sort of perennially entrepreneurial, they came from being in the room. They came from putting myself out there. Not a single one of those experiences came from not one of those clients, not one of those shows, came from doing it online. Truly, and that makes a big difference.
Matt, we are now moving to the entertainment portion of our podcast, all about New York City. All right, are
Yeah,
you ready?
I hope so. Yeah.
Okay, let's start with our coffee. What would be your coffee order, and where are you getting it?
Ooh, I'm about to drink coffee from a co-working space, so it's not this. I will also not name the co-working space. Where am I getting my coffee and where am I drinking it? Love, there's a bunch. There's a coffee shop. You know what I love? This is my new thing. I love, in the summertime, the iced coffee at the Clock Coffee Shop in the lobby of 355 Madison Avenue.
Okay, wow.
I get iced coffee with oat milk. They do some fun there. That is amazing coffee. The hot coffee is really good there too. But I feel like I'm someone who has no loyalty to a given brew, and
Right.
I've had so many meetings there recently, and it's, like, weirdly right in the middle of the city. Like, nothing about it makes sense, and yet it's
It w-
fun. People are going there now in droves. It's in the company ventures building. It's in the lobby, and it's, like, amazing. That coffee is amazing. So shout out to everyone at the clock. And if I don't get free coffee from them for this,
We'll tag them. We'll tag them.
yeah, seriously, just GG, you gotta fix that shit.
How about your bagel order?
Bagel order? Yeah, I knew this is it. Um, there's a bagel shop, Bagel Express, I think, that's pretty fantastic over there on 33rd and 3rd, something like that, 34th and 3rd. Um, I gotta look it up. I'm sorry, but Bagel Express is fantastic. And again, it doesn't make sense. Like I just had Essa Bagel, so Essa Bagel is a really close number two, but it's
Right.
very much a chain. It's very much a chain.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think you gotta support your super local spots. Love Bagel Express. I love Essa Bagel. I really do. And then again, depending on the day of the week, I'm going egg and cheese on sesame or cream cheese on sesame. Now I'm gonna blow your mind. Your mind gonna blown off. So those are my like. I'm in New York. This is my custom. This is what I've been doing my whole life. Now I'm gonna talk to you about something from the heart.
Okay.
So my family and I live in Westport, Connecticut, and there was a guy during COVID. So it's like, what's the name of that pandemic? During COVID,
Oh,
who started a shop called Pop Up Bagels in my town. It was
right.
so exciting, and he did so well. And he started opening actual locations. And now Pop Up Bagels is here in Manhattan, and it's unbelievable. So I want to say that my favorite bagel, is either cream cheese on everything or cream cheese on sesame. Let to Pop Up Bagel. Go get it.
Here we go. Let me
See,
see.
that's like that's the real deal. You had to really like push. You had to
Oh, of course. Papa
Papa
Big,
Bagel. Papa
of course.
Bagel was a local yeah, my wife, we moved out, we moved, our kids have a backyard now, but we moved to Fairfield County, and in my town, this guy had a Papa Bagel shop, and now he's like a bagel magnate, bagel
That's
emperor. Yeah,
I know.
sorry.
And
Yeah,
you
seriously,
started
like, big deal in our little part of the world. We're very proud of him. Okay,
right.
sorry.
And that's the exact bagel you're talking about, the pop-up bagel, that's his shop.
That's his shop.
And it was also always like a tub of the cream cheese. That's the go-to.
Yeah, it was a tub. Come on, it's like a cup. What are you talking about, tub? Yeah, it's not a
That's
tub.
good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cup.
Like Matt, you often inject cream cheese into your veins and just drain cream cheese. No, yeah, so anyway, it was a pop-up shop. That's why I had the name. He like started it in the back of a little building off the post road up where I am. It's great. It's very exciting. Everyone should get pop-up bagels.
There you go. I love that. Let me see. What other questions that we got? What's
Nothing
a
is more
local?
important than that one. Nothing. Nothing is important than bagel. So I'm happy you gave me a chance.
How about a local spot that deserves more attention?
Hmm. I mean, that's a lot. I would say that it's kind of a weird thing to say. Two of my favorite places in the world are the pier, just right when you're walking down west on Christopher Street and you get to the Hudson. That walk means a lot to me. I used to live on Christopher Street, and
Okay.
that's my favorite like walk practically. And then I think walking basically north up through the High Line, like that whole part of New York City is incredible, and everybody walks it every day. But I think people use it almost to commute now on foot. Just the way
Right.
the light hits the water over there. There are not as many skyscrapers. There's nothing really like that particular stretch of New York for me.
Right.
And the shops cycle year after year, and there's different offices opening and different restaurants opening, and yet the actual path remains unencumbered. It's still kind of like the most much of the West Village has been taken over by like young women Instagramming everything, and
Right.
which is totally cool. But I mean, like it's just become like a very photogenic neighborhood,
Right.
which it always has been, but in a different way. And yet
Yeah.
that area, like right at the highway, people don't seem to be snapping shots. It's still pretty chill, and that's a really amazing spot. So, and then I would say a friend of mine built this club in
Uh,
Bushwick called Elsewhere, and
elsewhere?
yeah, Elsewhere is one of my favorite places to see shows, but also to like actually go and to attend an event. And I didn't go for the first many years he had it, but I would say like of the sort of post industrial Bushwick becoming concert venue thing, Elsewhere remains the best. And shout out to my friend Dhruv Chopra for building that.
Wow. Okay. Let me see. What's your worst celebrating restaurant? Where are you booking?
Dude, since becoming a commuter, it's like what's closest to the train station. So like I would say that I'm booking dinners like actually at like the Smith, which is like 4 locations all over New York. So that's the answer. It's probably one version of the Smith or another. Good basic American food. Everything is delicious. Nothing is ever taking a long time.
Right.
Cozy atmosphere. But yeah, it's like I'm not trying to outthink the room on that one.
Right. Dependable, dependable.
Dependable and like everybody can get a seat, and also like yeah, I'm just at an age where the like I got young kids, so like I can't just be out at like I gotta go home. So it's dependable and manageable. I would say manageable is the other word
Got it.
I'd use.
Perfect.
And delicious. Sorry, I don't want to. I mean, like I liked it. I don't want to like the Smith.
Of
Come on, like
course, you like the food
like
too. Of course.
yeah, and they're like, what? No, the Smith is great. The Smith is
Right.
great. Eat at the Smith always.
Go. I gotta tag them too. They gotta put
If you
their
don't,
logo. Uh, what behavior in the subway should be illegal?
so much of it,
Right.
like almost all of it, it's like should be illegal. My first weekend living in New York, like almost 20 years ago, I sat down next to these two guys that were chasing each other out of the train. And I looked to my left and it was like sort of red liquid. And I thought, oh, that's juice. How weird. And I looked again and it was blood. And one guy had stabbed the other guy and they were chasing each other out of the subway. So I should probably say stabbing someone is
There you
that's
go.
illegal. You shouldn't have subway. But because it's only ever happened to me once,
Right.
I would say it should be illegal, like, because I really am pretty generous about this stuff. I
Right.
genuinely think it should be illegal to not give a pregnant woman a seat.
Right. Right. Right.
I think that if you are expecting and if you are a pregnant person, like not just visibly, but like uh, publicly experiencing the process of developing a human life within you, it is everyone's fucking responsibility around you on that train to let you sit, period. And it is weird how often, like,
If
I'll
you
know
don't give it up, right? Like,
yeah,
that's weird.
like, people just don't it's just insane. And we in New York, where people are generally and genuinely good-hearted for the most part, it's not infrequent, like, I don't think people take seats from pregnant people, I think people do often give their seat, but I think it's the way you, like, really enforce it is you just make that shit illegal.
That's good. It's a very big benefit to society too. Like give them the seat. Don't. Commuting is hard for sure.
Commuting is hard. I mean, yeah, just being the partner of a pregnant person 2
Right.
times over, it's, really d yeah, I have illegal, should be illegal. Give
I,
pregnant people seats. Full
I
stop.
agree. I agree. We should petition that. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, and tag the Smith. Give pregnant people seats, the Smith, and then they're like, "What? What are we" yeah,
Oh no,
put the money.
SEO here. SEO. Which New York City neighborhood is basically your personality and why?
Okay, that's a really good question. I would say when I was younger, the West Village, where was really cool and, like, deeply walkable, accessible to some of the best nightlife and the best food. And, like, kinda quirky, and I definitely loved it there.
Right.
I will say as I get older, it's probably the Upper West Side because I'm, like, aging into sort of a, um, silly Jewish curmudgeon. Like, I think that's probably like, I'll sort of, like and I'm, like, upset all the time about Trump. I'm who lives there? That is, like, who I'm rapidly becoming.
Right. Right.
Like, I'm an MSNBC liberal,
There you
yeah,
go.
like, fetching between Central Park and Riverside. Like, that's probably who I am.
That's the intersection.
Yeah, that's me.
So if New York had a signature smell, what is it? How would you describe it?
I want it to be that they can bottle the smell of the Edition Hotel in Flatiron. It's my favorite smell. Shout out to the Edition. It's unbelievable. I want that to be the answer. It's
Right.
probably some version of garbage
Right.
mixed with heat in the summer. And I will admit that I've gotten fond of it. Like on some level. Like, do I like it? No. Can I deal with it? Absolutely. It just feels like summer in New York. So I want it to be the Edition. It's probably hot garbage.
Fun fact, President Obama loves the Edition Hotel there. That's his like he one of his staffer told me like he always reserves for him there. But sometimes they're just gonna say it's from the Obama Foundation so that they give them the biggest suit, even if it's just the staff that's visiting.
There you go. Fun fact, President Obama's got a great sense of smell.
There,
That's my response. That's what I learned from that.
it's a validation. Okay, in New York, you can blank
Take on the world.
take on the world. Wow.
This is where the world is.
And last question: what did New York teach you?
Everything,
Uh huh.
everything. Full stop. I became an adult here. I wanted to live here my whole life. We will live here again when the kids are older. This is home. It's like I'm very tied up in the city as a personality, as a character. Like on a given day, all of my heroes have populated one corner of the city or another. Whether I'm like thinking about Spike Lee's Fort Greene, or I'm thinking about sort of the CBGB era of the East Village, or I'm thinking about how the East Village changed in the early 2000s. It became a home for the Strokes and LCD Sound System, or I'm thinking about my own time in Williamsburg when TV on the radio were my neighbors, or I'm thinking about the Greenpoint of the Lena Dunham
Right.
era. I mean, like whatever. There's a cultural connection between all these different neighborhoods. Or I'm thinking about the majesty of Broadway and what that's always meant to be able to go see a musical in the middle of Times Square. Like whatever you're, or the sort of the, if it's a rainy day and I just feel like I want, like just a hot bowl of soup somewhere on the Upper East Side. There's so many things that feel like New York to me. The Carnegie Deli, Katz's Deli, some of the best red velvet cheesecake you'll ever get in your life over there off the C train by Lafayette. Whatever, like wherever you are, whatever you're feeling, I think New York has a mood for you. And lately I've gotten more into sort of what like Flushing area in Queens, which I
Oh, yeah.
spent less time in growing up. Um, so there's in which Queens is like its own city, and I lived in Brooklyn for so long, and I lived in North Brooklyn, then I lived in North Central Brooklyn, then I lived in Northwest Brooklyn. Like so there's different. So anyway, I think that New York has so many different identities, and then of course in the middle of it, and I've just been talking around it, is Central Park, which is probably my favorite place in the world to just walk in. And
Great. Thank you so much, Matt, for being on the show. Who should reach out to you and where can they find you?
That's a great question. Startups, pre-seed and seed stage startups, generally building AI-enabled software, which is most companies, I get it. But like, I'm really interested in the creator economy. So AI-enabled startups building the creator economy should reach out to potentially participate on Right to Invest, which is a great show that we run. We have some announcements coming out on New York Tech Week about that show and about its new cadence and about what people can expect in the future. So that's definitely the first thing. And then also like sponsors looking to reach an audience of startups and VCs for the same show. That's something I'm actively doing right now as I'm raising more sponsors.
Thank you so much. And what would be your final remarks to our audience? Still listening, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, they probably tuned out a long time ago. My final remarks, the best thing I ever did was move to New York City and put myself out there at events and meetups and talk to people.
Right,
For
right.
anybody feeling anxiety or loneliness or confusion about a rapidly changing world, not just professionally, but interpersonal, right? There's a loneliness epidemic that you can't spend more than 30 seconds online feeling lonely reading about. There's a just a massive transition away from what we thought were going to be the most well-paying jobs of the information economy, right? Like everyone was told to code, and now it's like good luck. Probably a truck driver. Oh wait, they're going to be screwed too. Like we're depending on where you are in the conversation, there's a lot of
Right.
anxiety, and I think that like community and being in person with one another alleviates that anxiety. And I hope that my ability to make my way in the world, especially in the startup ecosystem, is proof that putting yourself out there, being in the room in a place like New York is really what made it all possible and what can make it all possible for you too.
If you're serious about making better decisions in your life, career, or business, subscribe to the Powerhouse. Every episode, we unpack one real decision under pressure so you can learn from leaders across New York City. And if there's someone whose story we should feature next, drop their name in the comments. I'm JG, and I'll see you in the next episode.